that moment of truth. This is where we're waiting for the internet to say, yes, you can. Yes, you can have another day. What are your thoughts on that? I need to see it first. There's a lull. There's a lull. And I have seen it. YouTube is awake. And it looks like Periscope is awake. Now, Rockfin, what are you doing? There's Rockfin. It's not a competition. It's not a competition. But today, Twitter was first, and then YouTube, and then yeah, you get it. Anyway, what's up, everybody? Good afternoon to all my East Coasters. My guest is over on the East Coast. Good morning to all my West Coasters. How's your morning? Did you have your coffee? And good evening to everyone in an evening time zone. I hope you are doing amazing. And to everyone in the future, which, by the way, I got a nice note here that I want to share with everyone. I always say to everyone in the future, Australia, New Zealand, you're a day ahead of us. So you have an extra day of science. Please solve climate change and tell the rest of us. Well, I got an email yesterday from Glenn out in Australia. What's up, Glenn? Thank you for this email. It made me chuckle. I can't read the whole thing, Glenn, and I'm sure you know what I mean. But even though I know you're being sardonic and goofy, but still, here's what Glenn says. Coming from, there was a university study, says Glenn, that said the only way for our species to survive was major revolution. We need a socioeconomic revolution. Coming from about a half a day in your future, says Glenn, I wish I could tell you we had already solved the problem. I understand, Glenn. It's a tall glass of water. I understand. Unfortunately, our prime minister is as thick as pig shit, and when he was Australian treasurer, walked into our houses of parliament with a lump of coal, saying there was nothing to be afraid of in a piece of coal. I remember that when it happened. He is also a prosperity Christian awaiting the rapture. Ron, we in the future down here in Oz are fucked. Hope you septics in the USA have better luck with your senile old man in chief. And that's from Glenn. Thank you for that, Glenn. You gave me a chuckle. I appreciate it very, very much. Yeah, other folks, send me solutions, whether you're in Australia, New Zealand, or anywhere else in the world. Anywhere else in the world. What I'm saying is I love emails. A couple other quick announcements here. I want to tell you about the U.S. Solutions Summit. The U.S. Solutions Summit is an event live on May 22nd. That's a Saturday on KRTD Media. So find them on YouTube and all the socials. It's just KRTD Media. Starting at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on May the 22nd. There's 6 panels. It's a star-studded panelist lineup, including Ron Placone. They're not all stars. They're not all stars, but I'm part of it. Graham Elwood, Justin Jackson, The Convo Couch, Hard Lens Media, and more than a few dozen others. You're not going to want to miss this. I'm stoked to be part of it. You can go to ussolutionssummit.com, and that's with 2 S's, US, and then the word solutionssummit.com to sign up for email updates about the event. And I hope to see you all there on May 22nd. And we're sponsored today by Indie Left. Indie Left is the only place to find all the content from the streamers and writers that you know and love. They got a platform. They update it twice a day. They curate all the news for you and make it very, very easy for you to check out everything they got going on and to subscribe to their Discord. Check them out online at independentleft.media. That's independentleft.media. All right, without further ado, I was just on the podcast that this guy is part of, which is one of my favorite new podcasts that is out right now. He is a member of the Fred Hampton Leftists, which is the podcast I'm referring to. I had such a blast with all of them, and I hope to come back again soon. But today, he's doing my show. Please welcome James Fauntleroy. James, what's up, buddy?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
Good to see you, man. So I got a couple headlines for you. And then I want to get to know you a little bit, get to know a little more about the Fred Hampton Leftists project and everything. So thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it very much. We'll jump right into it. So you had a response to this tweet, but we'll go ahead and look at the original tweet first. So this was from David Rozier. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that, but he's a congressperson out of North Carolina in the 7th District. And he says, this is what happens when you extend unemployment benefits for too long and add a $1,400 stimulus payment to it right when employers need workers to fully open back up. Few can be found. And he has a picture here of a fast food place. I guess it's a Hardee's, right? Am I right?
Yeah,
Looks
it's
like
either
Hardee's.
Hardee's or Carl's Jr. It looks like.
Oh yeah, because there's the little like smiling star here, which I guess that could be. Carl's Jr. has that like clown face dude, right?
Yeah.
But they probably utilize smiling stars as well. But anyway, it's one of those places. They're all the same.
Yeah.
And they say due to no staff, we are closed. We are hiring, and then they have the phone number. Oh wait, it tells us. It says Hardee's. It
Hmm.
is a Hardee's.
Yeah.
They told us. They told us at the end there. They're like, it's a Hardee's. So they have a sign saying that they're closed due to no staff. And he's saying, well, this is because you extended unemployment benefits and added a $1,400 stimulus payment. It has nothing to do with not paying living wages. So here's what you had to say about this. Let's go to your response first. And then we're going to go to something else in the news because this goes far beyond this guy's ridiculous tweet. This is a long-standing propaganda campaign against working people. But let's go to what you said, James, first. Now, Jay Befaunt, of course, is your Twitter personality.
Hmm.
And here's what you say here. All right, Dave, I'm going to let you in on a fact. If businesses aren't willing to pay workers a living wage, then they can stay closed. What's funny is that workers holding out is actually the, quote, free market. So businesses need to compete for workers. If not, they can go out of business. I don't care. Did he respond to you?
Great job, James. Yeah, it's quite ironic that you have these free market fundamentalists that want to talk about, oh well, it's because people aren't that the government gave them a handout that people aren't working. And my question is, if you're against government handouts, then why aren't you against government handouts to large corporations? If we're
Yeah.
going to make a thing, then let's cover all the bases. If you want the free market to be the free market, then let it be the free market. Okay, so if businesses didn't have, the wherewithal to save up for a rainy day, like they tell all of us, the poors, then guess what? Then they should have had the wherewithal and the personal responsibility, because I know they like to throw that around. They should have had the personal responsibility to save up that money for a case for a rainy day. And if they didn't, then they should close.
Well, it's not
But
even just that, but
yeah,
it's also if you can't afford to pay an employee a living wage, you can't afford an employee. It's as
exactly.
simple as that. And we wouldn't tolerate it in any other area. If you showed up at Hardee's
Mhm.
and they said, "Hey, what does Hardee's serve? They serve burgers, right?
Yeah, it's
It
burgers,
doesn't matter."
fries. Yeah,
But
whatever.
let's say they said, "Hey, no more no fries today because we can't afford the potatoes anymore. We just can't afford potatoes."
Mhm.
You're never going to go back to that Hardee's, right? Because you expect fries with your Hardee's meal or whatever the hell it is,
Mhm.
and if they don't have fries, you'll be like, "Well, I'm going to go to the one with fries." And you
Mhm.
can't just, well, we just can't afford fries. We're sorry. Well, same
Mhm.
deal here. If you can't, and it's not like they can go to the distributor or the
Mhm.
grocery store and say, "Hey, we're Hardee's. We really can't afford to pay full price for these potatoes. But would you accept like less? Would you accept like half?" They're going to say no. These are how much the potatoes cost. And if you
Mhm.
can't afford these potatoes, guess what? You can't afford to serve fries in your establishment, I guess. What's the same thing? If you can't afford an employee, and you can't pay them a living wage, you can't afford an employee. And nobody ever looks at it that way. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, people don't want to work. People don't. No, people want to work. They just want to be paid a living wage. And if you
Mhm.
can't do it, well, I guess you can't afford an employee.
One thing they need to get through their head is that, number one, this is business. Okay, employers are not entitled to employees. They're not entitled to have us as employees unless they actually present a model that is advantageous to us. So if you're not willing to pay out a living wage, then you can't complain that we aren't willing to work for that person, because that's business. So if you're not being attractive enough to laborers for, to promote your business, then I guess that means that they need to raise the compensation in order to attract workers. That's how it works. And so the fact that you have a lot of these uh, free market fundamentalist, politicians who are complaining about this. It's like 1+1 = 2. Pay people enough to, to work for you, and they'll come work for you. It's actually really simple. And the thing is that what trips my mind is that these are elected officials. These are supposed to be the professionals, and yet they still can't seem to get that through their head. It's like, what are you, 2 years old? So it's just, to me,
they get it. They get it. They just have to pretend they don't get it.
Well, I mean, yeah, point taken, and you're absolutely correct. And so another thing is, when you have people who are getting more money from unemployment, I'm actually happy that they're getting closer to a living wage than they ever got from working. This means it actually forces the businesses to actually raise their wages so that people can actually have a living wage. And it's not like people are going to stay on unemployment for forever. If you're paying $18 an hour versus a business paying $13 an hour, the person who sees that, oh snap, you're paying $18 an hour, I'm getting the equivalent of $15 an hour from unemployment, but if I just work for them, I'll make more as long as the hours are good, then I'm gonna go work. People aren't necessarily lazy. People are trying to survive.
Yeah.
And so if you don't get that, then it means, one, either you don't want to get it because you're you just not thinking about it, or two, it means you're out of touch, or you're so comfortable that it would never occur to you that this is a means of self-preservation and survival.
Yeah. So I want to go here next. So this is an article from NBC. And this is the first thing that pops up in the news section on Google. If you just Google like wages, people don't want to work. So here's what pops up. And I want to go through this, and we're going to dissect this thing. And then I'm going to give you my thoughts on it. You're going to give me yours. Available jobs remain unfilled as local business owners struggle to entice people to work. So this is out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. A Fort Wayne business owner says when Congress authorized pandemic stimulus payments and extra unemployment benefits to help people who lost jobs, it created a big problem for him and others. And he's just a small business owner in your community. Last couple months, it's been really difficult to find help, says Tim Allen. Now, the company is called Big Eyed Fish. It employs people at 3 locations plus a food truck. But owner Allen says he's struggling to fill open positions. In just a 10-block radius of here, I guarantee you there's 400 jobs available. So until the free money, which is what he's referring it as, goes away, we're going to have this issue. First of all, it's not free money. It's the government upholding their end of an agreement. One of the reasons we have a federal government, if something like a pandemic happens, the government takes care of people. That's one of the reasons you pay taxes every year. So it's not free money. It's not a handout. In fact, the fact that the government did not do what they were supposed to do in giving people an emergency UBI, in freezing payments for small businesses all over the country, the fact that they didn't do that in the manner in which other countries did, they're actually stealing from you. They're actually stealing from all of us. That's what's really going down. So he goes on to say people are bringing in more income by collecting unemployment rather than working. What is that telling you? So he says, I'm out here busting my butt and working 60, 70 hours a week, and the person that's sitting at home is making more of the same, so it's really tough to get them to come out to do it. He says that's prompted some restaurants to do carry out, blah, blah, blah. So he's saying that he's not finding people to work, and he's looking for people to work. Now, here's the real big kicker here. This is the last sentence. In the meantime, he says he pays his employees a good wage to continue to pick up the slack, but he's not sure how long he can keep that up. Isn't that? And they don't even see the hypocrisy here. Can you believe that?
Oh my God. Look.
Right?
Yo, I'm telling you right now, it is right in it's right in their face. Yes. And it's like, don't you get it? Like, okay, first off, the first question I would have asked him, I would have said, how much are you paying your employees?
Yes. Well, they don't bring that up. They don't bring, I mean, there's a number of reasons why this article is just pure propaganda. First of all, they don't bring up, they're not going to talk about a place. They're not going to bring up the fact that people don't want to work at Hardee's and people don't want to work at they use a local business, right? Because they want to make it out like this is just a community member who's being screwed over. So they're going to pick a local business. That was deliberate. The other big thing they do, they're telling it from his side of it, but they're not bringing up what he pays his employees. And then in this last sentence, they reveal what the real problem is, and they don't even see how they contradicted themselves. They're like, he just needs employees. He needs employees to work, but the employees that he has, he can't pay them, or he can't pay them good wages. So I guess in regular times, he just pays everyone a shitty wage. Normally, he pays shitty wage. Right now, he's paying good ones, but he doesn't know how much longer he can afford to do that. So he can't afford the employees he has, but he needs more, and he's entitled to them, apparently. I mean, this article just unintentionally shows its hand. Yeah.
And the word good is a subjective word. So therefore, what is a good wage? Like, what is he paying him? They did not give that information out. And that would have been a lot more revealing about him in the article than anything. See, they intentionally didn't put in how much he pays. Because if he was paying maybe $12, $13 an hour, then guess what? People reading would have been like, well, of course, he's not paying a living wage. We all know basically what a living wage is. A living wage is somewhere north of $20 an hour, depending on what part of the country you live in. It's between, I would probably say between 22 and 28. Yeah. But the thing is that to him, that's like, no, I can't do that. And it's like, well, then I guess you can't have workers then. I guess you're going to have to do it all on your own.
But yeah, and how much is he pulling in? Is he not selling enough food? I mean, he's got all these locations. Is he? I mean, yeah, they don't go into any of these details. And here's the thing, man. Let me know your thoughts on this. Okay. If he was actually, I mean, let's say he's understaffed right now and he's at about 70%. So to make it up to his employees, he's paying them double wages or something like that. If that was the case, I bet they would have said that in the article. You know what I mean? Like they would have said he's paying his employees twice their regular wage if he was actually doing that, which means he probably isn't. He's probably just paying them a little bit more. And of course, they're not even saying what that is. So they're really tipping their hands by saying he's actually paying a respectable wage right now. He normally doesn't even do that. And he can't even keep doing that for the employees that he has, supposedly. But he needs more of them. He needs more employees. He's barely taking care of the ones he has, but he needs more of them, and he's entitled to them. People just don't want to work.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you can't pay the employees that you have a decent wage, then why do you need more if you can't pay them?
Yeah.
Sounds like bad business sense to me.
That's the thing. I mean, people love, and again, you're using the free market Bible against the free market Bible thumpers. You're like, look, this is capitalism. You love it so much. Guess what that means? Everyone involved is looking to make a buck. That includes your landlord. That includes the people selling you the ingredients you use. That includes everybody. There are no public resources. There is nothing collectively owned. So that means you are entitled to try. You get a shot. But if you can't manage your business, and if you can't pay employees a living wage, guess what? You don't get an employee. The same way, if you can't afford to buy the ingredients, you don't get the freaking ingredients.
Yeah.
It's unreal that there is just this complete propaganda campaign against working people. And again, this article is a prime example how they try to turn working people against one another. They found a small business owner who's going to parrot that right-wing nonsense. You know, they're going to kind of keep it in the dark. Like, what's he actually paying his employees? What's he actually doing? They're going to make it all from his perspective. Oh, people just don't want to work. And they're going to publish that stuff so that you feel bad for that guy. Meanwhile, it's like, no, people need living wages. If this guy's not offering it, he doesn't get an employee. And they're admitting that, oh, he's paying good wages right now. Normally, he pays shit. Normally, it's like, what does he normally pay? I mean, it's unbelievable. They printed that. Yeah. They didn't even see the hypocrisy. In the meantime, he says he pays his employees at a good wage to continue to pick up the slack, but he's not sure how long he can keep that up. Normally, he pays them shitty wages. Normally, once it's in normal time, he'll just pay them shitty wages again. But right now,
Mm-hmm.
Because people don't want to risk their lives for less than what they're getting sitting at home. Like,
Yeah, that sounds like a guy I don't want to work for, even in good times.
yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like it's like if you're complaining about paying people decent wages, I mean, shouldn't that be something that you're proud of? That you can pay somebody a decent wage and then they can actually thrive from having that business relationship with you? Like, what in the hell this individualistic capitalistic mindset is such a cancer on our society
Yeah.
that you have people now that don't take pride in being able to have a good business relationship with their workers. In fact, they have a regret and a disdain for their workers. And it's like you wouldn't even have that business if the workers weren't there. So it's to me that is a deeply ungrateful person, because you're basically saying, oh, well, people are just lazy. Well, then shit, we won't work for you then if you think that all of us are just like that because
Mm-hmm.
we're just trying to survive. Can you blame us? Like, come
Yeah.
on.
Well, and you know what's
Yeah.
interesting too is like whenever they do take the approach of being a decent employer,
Hmm.
it leads to higher productivity 100% of the time. It leads to
Oh
better
yeah.
results 100% of the time. When you hear about these situations, and they do happen in the United States, they're rare, but they do happen where something becomes, an employer co-op or an
Hmm.
employee co-op, which
Hmm.
I forget what the exact verbiage is in United States financial terms, but they do happen. I mean, there was that guitar company that just did it.
Hmm.
There's that one grocery chain. I think they're based in Wisconsin. So it does happen. There's that CEO up in Seattle who like put everybody on a $70,000 a year salary.
Hmm.
Um,
Dan Price.
Dan Price. And
Hmm.
whenever stuff like that happens, it leads to better productivity. It
Hmm.
leads to a better workplace.
Hmm.
Everybody's happier. Everybody wins. Everybody loves being part of the company. The company makes better revenue because everyone's happy. And so they want to be productive. They feel like they're part of something.
Hmm.
Everybody benefits.
Yeah.
Everybody benefits.
Even from a company standpoint, hiring and the process of orientation and training costs more money. So if you have a higher turnover rate, then that means you're expending more money just to keep and retain talent. But if the company culture, as well as the compensation, is that of a living wage, then that means the turnover will be a lot less. Also, saving that company more money in the long run. So therefore, actually paying people a living wage is actually beneficial for the company because you're retaining talent and also you're lowering your expenditures over a long period of time. I am not a business major or a businessman by any stretch of the imagination, but that's pretty simple math to me. And so, you know, taking the route of just wanting to pay people as least as possible is actually dangerous for a business.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's horrible for everyone involved. Do you think that a potential silver lining in this whole thing is that as a society, we're going to start to turn the page on this one? That we're going to get better
Mm,
wages, that this is going to lead to a better tomorrow in this regard. Because people are realizing, I think a lot of people are connecting the dots and they're
yeah.
realizing this shows the hole in the system.
Mhm.
People don't want to just sit at home and do nothing. People want to be part of society. They want, I mean, especially in the United States where it's really ingrained that you're supposed to live to work. People want to go to work and earn a paycheck. They just want to earn a living wage. And now you're seeing the holes in the system where it's like, geez, I'm better off just staying at home than I am working because of these exploitation wages.
Mhm. Um, I I actually like the fact that people are now realizing that they deserve better and they should demand better.
Hmm.
The whole live to work mindset is, pardon my French, but it's a fucked up mindset.
Oh, absolutely.
And the reason why I say that is because working is should be a means to fund your life, not the life that you live. So the real reason why people work is basically to have their basic needs met, and that's it. Because what they do outside of work is actually living their life.
Right.
So for people to try to make it seem like working is the ultimate goal in life, it's not. We are so productive in this nation that if they really wanted to, people could make instead of a living wage, they can actually make a thriving wage, and people wouldn't have to work as much, and people would be able to actually live their lives and be able to enjoy life even in their best years. And by best years, I mean between 30 and 50. And so this mindset that you have to grind until you get so old that you really can't enjoy your life, to me, it's just ass backwards.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I'm with you 110%.
Yeah. And I'm happy. One thing I actually hope is I actually hope that it leads to a general strike. I hope people wake up and go, hey, you know what? If we stop working and stop producing for these corporations and then make specific demands for what we want, then we can get something, and then we can actually have a better life, and our material conditions could actually be met, not just from the corporate side, but also from the political side as well, which that's actually something I'm actually hoping for. I don't know if it will happen in the near future, but I definitely hope it happens sometime in my lifetime. And it's almost like we're kind of in a kind of an inadvertent general strike right now, because now you have workers going, we don't have anybody to work for us, and it's like, well, it sucks to be you, pay people more. You
Right.
know.
Well, I'm with you on the general strike 110%, and I'm sure you know that already because I talk about
Hmm.
it a lot, and I talked about it on
Yeah.
your guys' show. But
Hmm.
I think that it's gotta happen sooner than later. I mean, I think if it
Yeah.
doesn't happen soon, it's not going to, and I just don't see any other way out of this thing. I think people need to just, I mean, there needs to be kind of a complete restructuring of the working class because the working class has been
Yeah.
decimated.
It
And I
has.
think the only way to get to that is a general strike and saying this is, we demand better. And
Hmm.
there's more of us than there are of the ruling class.
Yeah. Actually, my fellow FHL co-host RJ, he had on Thomas Frank a few weeks ago, and Thomas Frank was actually he said something that made a lot of sense. He said that in order for a general strike to happen, people have to feel like they have absolutely nothing to lose.
Mm, yeah, he's right. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I
And so to get people to that point, I don't know if it's going to happen soon. I want it to happen soon.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will. The only thing I can think that we can do to push the needle is to continue to keep having these conversations.
Well, and I think there's also like the whole element of the mutual aid involved and,
Yeah.
the kind of community support that is
Mhm.
necessary for something like that to succeed.
Mhm.
And I get what, Thomas Frank is saying, where people really need to feel like they have nothing to lose. But I would say that that's valid in the metaphorical sense, not as much in the literal sense. Because in the literal
Mhm.
sense, if they feel like I might lose my child or I might lose the roof over my head, they're not going to go on strike. But if they feel like I'm going to lose this job and fuck it, I don't care. I am demanding better and I'm not going to settle for less. And you know what? I have my community around me. I know that I'm not going to be out in the streets. I know that people are looking after my kids while I'm out there on the picket lines. I know that, that sort of thing where it's like the community is there
Mhm.
for each other.
Mhm.
That's gonna make it easier, and that's why other places strike more. They strike more because, you know, they have nothing to lose that's not worth losing if they have to. You know, their health care is not tied to their job. They know, you know, that their kids are taken care of. They live in more nurturing societies that, of course, have their own problems, but they are more nurturing and better social safety situations than the United States. So they're able to strike and strike often.
Yeah. And that's actually what I'm hoping for, is that people are being screwed. They're being gypped. They're being taken for a ride. They're being bamboozled. And that's the nature of capitalism, is to do this. Is they people need to feel how exploited they actually are. And one of the things that I love is that people like yourself and Graham Elwood. I'm sorry, my brain had a brain fart.
It's all right.
People like you and Graham Elwood, you guys talk about, you know, what other countries, you know, what they have, and to shine a light on that so that people in this country realize that we live in the richest country in the history of the world. And the fact that countries who do not have as many resources as we do are able to give these provisions for their citizens, and yet the United States doesn't give these provisions to us, there's something wrong. We don't have mandatory paid vacation by law. We do not have universal child care. We don't have a universal healthcare system. And so just some of these things would drastically change even the mindset of Americans. And I think that's the fear that a lot of, I don't like to call them elites. I like to call them oppressor class.
Okay. I like that.
They fear this because that means that we are going to take back our wealth from their gravy train if we have that mindset. And they're trying to take that mindset away from us. Part of it's through manufacturing consent and indoctrination. And this indoctrination is not just in our news media, it's also in the movies we watch, the books we read, the TV shows we consume. And so we have to fight against it. And I just want to say that, you know, a lot of the work that you do is deeply helpful because it's waking people up. And this needs to happen because it means our survival. Hell, the planet is depending on us to be able to wake up and change the system that we're currently in, because the trajectory is dismal. And it, you know, this planet can go, you know, as far as our survival within the next century. So it's important that people like yourself, you know, keep talking. And I just want to say that I appreciate what you do.
Well, I appreciate what you do, man, and yeah, right back at you, absolutely, and
Yep.
thank you for that. And yeah, I mean, we're calling for a true status quo shift, and the propaganda is very, very thick, man. Because hey, I mean, I tweeted this last night. It's like, look, the United States has convinced people that healthcare is not a human right, that college, you know, like free college is not a human right, that housing is not a human right, that clean water is not a human right, but a capitalist who isn't paying living wages has the right to an employee. They have a right to that, but all these other things, not human rights, not at all. Not in the richest country in the world, not human rights, not at all.
No.
So I got another headline for you. So this is this is something Joe Biden said recently. This is kind of a fun one. Biden says corporations should pay their fair share of taxes to fund the infrastructure plan. Here's the quote. I come from the corporate capital of the world. I think he's referring to his brain, the corporate capital. More corporations are incorporated. Yeah, right. But no, he's referring to Delaware. He says more corporations are incorporated in the state of Delaware than all the rest of the nation combined. That's like the main thing they're known for, It's like when you get a call from a bank call center, it's probably in Delaware. But anyway, and I'm not anti-corporate, he goes on to say, as if anyone was questioning that. I'm not anti-corporate, whatever that means, but it's about time they start paying their fair share, says Biden. Do you think they're going to pay their fair share?
Under Biden? No. Oh, my sweet summer child. Absolutely not. No, come on. It's Biden. They're not going to pay their fair share. Come on.
Well, he's not anti-corporate, but
that's like saying I'm not racist, but come on. It's stupid. This is the same guy that's like, okay, we're going to raise the corporate tax. Okay, the corporate tax was 35% and Trump brought it down to 21%. Okay, let's just do it to 28%.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I thought you wanted to pay their fair share. Oh, you're only going back up by half? So you're not going to make them pay their fair share fully?
I think that's like the prime example, and that's what this whole thing is. It's the prime example of the ricochet effect, which has been what contemporary United States politics has been for 40 years plus, over 40 years now, where it's like it goes super far to the right, and then it just kind of ricochets back a little bit and then goes further to the right again. So it's like we're at 35. Well, boom, we're going to go way to the right at 21. Okay, well, we'll ricochet to 28 a bit. And then, of course, eventually it's going to go back again. And it'll probably be even worse, than 21 even. So that's what they do. And then Biden will be able to hide behind that and be like, oh, see, I made the corporations pay their fair share. No, it went to something completely abysmal. You made it mildly less abysmal, but it's not the fair share that they were. And even then they weren't paying their fair share, but it was closer. It was 35 versus 21, and you're going to bring it to 28. I mean, and so it's like the next Republican president will probably try to bring it to like 15, or hey, who knows? Maybe even a Democrat will try that. It's so. The lip service is really, I mean, I know it's always bad because it's politics, whatever, but I feel like it has reached a level where you could not pitch any of this stuff as a television show, where it's like they tweet these platitudes at a convenient time when it's too late for them to actually do anything policy-wise. All of a sudden they're tweeting about minimum wage now, even though when they could have done something about it, they bowed down to the parliamentarian and made it out like there was nothing they could do about this almighty person who doesn't actually have any real power. Now they're tweeting about it. I mean, it's just, wow. Wow.
It's funny that you mentioned the parliamentarian. I actually got into it with somebody on Twitter about it, and they said I mentioned that they didn't want to pass $15 an hour, and they blamed it on the parliamentarian. Sorry, and the person said, "Well, what the parliamentarian says stands, and so there's nothing they can do, and there's nothing they can do." And I said, they can fire the parliamentarian or they can override the parliamentarian. And the person said, no, because according to the Byrd rule, you can't fire the parliamentarian. The Byrd rule. And I was like, absolutely not. No, they can fire the parliamentarian. It's been done before, and they can override the parliamentarian. And then they kept going back to some person on YouTube who said that it can't be done, blah, blah, blah. I took a 2 to 3 second Google search, found out that yes, number one, the parliamentarian can be fired.
Right.
In fact, they did fire a parliamentarian before. I think it was in 2001. And there's nothing in the Byrd rule saying that the parliamentarian cannot be fired or overruled. So that was bullshit. So to say and blame it on someone, that's like farting and saying that you blame the fart on the dog. It's stupid. All you got to do is just say, you know what? No, I override the parliamentarian. We're putting the $15 an hour in.
Well, and isn't it amazing too how it's basically, I mean, the system in the United States thumbs its nose at public opinion 100% of the time, big time. But man, this is an example of that, and it's just most brutal middle finger in your face
Mhm.
way. Because look, the parliamentarian unelected position,
Yeah.
and who could like really just override the parliamentarian and do something about it the most direct? The vice president.
Yes.
Also, for the most part, an unelected person for the most part, because it's like, look, people didn't vote for Kamala Harris. They voted for Joe Biden for president. She
Mhm.
came along. She barely showed up. I mean, she barely even showed up in the results in her own state because here in California, we know what she's really
Mhm.
all about. But
Mhm.
they shoved her down our throats anyway as VP. So basically, these two, for the most part, unelected people that nobody wanted got to dictate, hey, $15 an
Yeah.
hour minimum wage isn't going to be in there. And by the way, not even a living wage. $15 an hour, not even a living wage at this point. It's basically like a symbolic thing at this point, and they can't even pass that. They won't even pass that.
No. It's just corporate masters. They bow at the altar of the corporations, and the corporations, appear on the holocron just like Darth Sidious and say, well, no, may the fourth be with you, by the way.
Oh
But they
yeah, yeah. And
appear,
I was gonna mention in general talk, I was gonna feel you out on some Star Wars stuff. So we'll go there in a minute.
yeah. But they're like Darth Vader bowing before Darth Sidious, who is over corporations, and they're like, "What is thy bidding, my master?" And then next thing the master says, "Do not give them a living wage, no matter what." And so they're like, "It shall be done, my master." And then next thing you know, it was the parliamentarian's fault. We can't do it. And this parliamentarian, which by the way makes over $170,000 a year, go ahead and Google it. They are basically saying, no, 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 you can't, no, you can't get a $15 an hour minimum wage because it doesn't go according to what the rules. And so they hide behind policy, they hide behind the rules of the Senate in order to screw you over.
Yeah.
So this is bullshit 101, and they're counting on people not knowing that. And so then you go, oh, it's the parliamentarian. Okay. When all they got to do is say, fuck what the parliamentarian says. Vice President Harris, do it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing, and again, it's we are so programmed to just accept this government that not only doesn't work for the people, actively works against them.
Yeah.
And we're so programmed to just accept these two right-wing parties, which is what we
Hmm.
have. I mean, we have a
Yes.
neo-fascist party and a neoliberal party. The only
Hmm.
reason they're able to be as ridiculous as they are is because of each other. The only reason Republicans are able to be this freaking gruesome is because of how ineffective Democrats are. Similarly, the
Hmm.
only reason Democrats are able to be this ineffective is because of how gruesome the Republicans are. That's bipartisanship, baby. They need each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
And, they just count on people just accepting it and just saying, yeah, we can't possibly do better than this. Even though pretty much every nation that has our level of wealth does better, we can't possibly do better than this. We can't
Yeah.
possibly. And I'm not saying other countries don't have their problems. Of course they do. And they have problems with neoliberalism too, like we do, but not anywhere near.
Hmm.
Like not anywhere near. Like they actually have. I mean, in England, the farthest right party, at least the farthest right party with actual power, would be the Democratic Party. They're to the right of the Tories, and
Yeah.
the Tories are terrible. England is like the far right of that area. Like they're like other countries look at England and they're like, oh, they're a little wacky over there, and yet
Yeah.
to compare to us, their right wing party is to the left of our supposedly not right wing party. And
Yeah.
people accept this as normal. And
Yeah.
sometimes you're just like, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah.
anyway, so you don't believe Joe Biden? I don't either. But hey, you know what? Come on, Mac.
I, I, you know, Handsy Uncle Joseph, I don't believe him. I just he lies too much. So why would I believe him? He lied.
Well,
I mean, he lied about even voting for the Iraq War. Or
cutting
he'll make
Social
these.
Security, lied about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I'm sorry. He lied about cutting Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, even though he said it on the House floor. No, sorry, the Senate floor. Um, and he even lied straight to Bernie Sanders' face when Bernie Sanders actually was debating him on one of the last Democratic primary debates. And Bernie Sanders was like, "Really? You
Yeah.
didn't?" He was, and
Well,
he went full Trump and said, "No, no, I didn't."
yeah. Well, it's so funny when people are acting like, oh, this Biden guy, I don't know. And it's just like, gee, if only he had given us 40 years of clues of what kind of president he would be. If only we had 40 years of a track record
Hmm.
to see what kind of
Hmm.
politician this guy is. If only.
Yeah.
Uh,
If only. Yeah.
so let's talk a little bit about you and some general stuff, man. First of all, this came up organically, so we'll go here first. May the 4th be with you. It
May
is
the fourth be with you.
cheers, buddy. What's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Don't shoot me, but I love Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
I like that one too.
Yeah.
I say out of the first three, that was like the redeemable one. I thought that Attack of the Clones was painful, and I thought the first one was just okay. It wasn't unbearable, but it was kind of boring and whatever. But I thought the third one kind of redeemed it all a little bit. I thought that was a good one. Um,
Yeah.
the newest one I didn't care for as much. Like the newest one where Palpatine somehow is back. I didn't care for
Yeah.
that one as much.
Yeah.
I don't know if Disney has something to do with it, or well, they do have something to do with it, but I don't. But although I enjoyed the Baby Yoda stuff, I thought that was good stuff.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that show, so
Yeah.
I'm
The
not.
the Mandalorian actually redeemed Disney. I think part of it's because of Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. They actually brought what Star Wars was supposed to have been in the last sequel trilogy. And as far as the Return of Skywalker, um, I wasn't a big fan of it myself. I think it should have been written differently, and Disney had a huge part in it turning out the way it did, primarily because one of the creative consultants was George Lucas himself. And
Mhm.
then as they were continuing with the movie, they said, "Thanks a lot, George, but we don't need you."
Hmm.
And so because they said, "All right, George, we're kind of Xing you out. We don't need you," then that's when you got The Rise of Skywalker. Um,
Interesting.
so because of that, this is why it may be regarded as one of the worst Star Wars movies in the entire saga. And it's sad to say that the last one was regarded that way.
Yeah, I mean, I would still say Attack of the Clones was worse, but yeah, it's
Hmm.
my personal favorite. I used to for years I was like a straight up Return of the Jedi is my favorite one.
Hmm.
But as I've gotten a little older, man, I feel like Empire Strikes Back might kind of take the gold star now. I feel like they're neck and neck. It's definitely one of those two.
Hmm.
Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, still my favorite.
Okay. Okay, so it's kind of funny how I've gotten into Star Wars because I was never into Star Wars as a little kid. I got into it. I saw my first Star Wars movie at the age of 14. Okay, that was
Oh,
back
right on.
in 99. And so when I first saw it, that was officially my first Star Wars movie was episode 1. So as far as episode number, that's how I originally saw Star Wars.
Oh,
I did,
that's interesting, man.
yeah,
That's not a
yeah,
common story.
yeah. So I never saw it by release order. I saw it by episode order. So for me, I didn't get to see the original Star Wars trilogy until after I saw Revenge of the Sith. So the whole reveal of Luke, I am your father, was never a surprise to me.
That's
So
interesting.
yeah, so I
So
saw it
that's an
in that way.
entirely different. Wow, that is
Yeah,
cool. Do you know
yeah.
anyone else like that? You're the only person I know who can say that, like who has that saw it in order.
Uh, I can't think of anybody at the moment, but I'm pretty sure there's a few of us.
Oh yeah,
But
no,
it's
you
just,
they
yeah,
exist, but yeah, I don't. That's kind of cool actually. Like that's kind of interesting that like you
yeah,
had that experience, just going total chronological. Um,
yeah.
so what got you involved with the Fred? Well, first, tell me your for in your words, like what exactly is the leftist project all about, and how did you come to be part of it?
So the Fred Hampton Leftist is basically a network of different shows that we have come together. And it's basically in the spirit of Chairman Fred Hampton, who was one of the chairmen of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. As many people know, Black Panthers were a socialist, Marxist, communist group of individuals that wanted to change the United States as far as the economics and our material conditions are concerned. They wanted to improve things, so they did things like breakfast programs, free clinics. They helped protect and police their own communities. And so Fred Hampton was a revolutionary that we all have, a tremendous amount of respect for. And we wanted to do this not just as a news campaign, but also an educational campaign, because a lot of people have been subject to propaganda and being red scared as far as anything that says socialism or communism. And so one of the things that we do is we bring it to kitchen table issues and we explain to people why things are the way they are. Uh, just to let everybody know, spoiler, it's capitalism. So, but we talk about it in such a way where we break it down in kitchen table issues, and we also have many interviews with different people. Like for instance, we had yourself, people like Danny Haifong. We had uh, uh,
Thomas Frank.
Thomas Frank. We had Alan Axelrod, who's part of the No Amarin Shutoffs. He's an activist. And Chris Richards. We had many different people on with many different, takes as far as different issues in history or issues that's going on currently in the country um, that would benefit the lives of people or that would educate them in the sphere of leftism, in general. So we came together. It was an idea sprung up by, you know, uh, three members: Compton J, Rome, Bethia, and Nick. And so they brought together the team. It's kind of like Barbara Walters. I had an idea for a show. Uh, so uh, it was uh, it was a great idea, and they included me, which was a shock and surprise because I didn't think that I would be thought of in that way, which I'm deeply grateful. And uh, right now, you have people like Rome, who is on the ground right now. He just did a campaign in Jacksonville, Florida, to give money, food, and clothes to the poor. And he's on his way right now to Toledo, Ohio, to do the same. And he's actually fundraising for that right now so that he can uh, distribute food and clothes to poor people, toys to children, things like that. And so this is some real on the ground stuff, and we want to expand further and also bring more activists to light so that, people, especially in local areas, can start working more with activists. And this hopefully can also spark more mutual aid so that we can get to that general strike like we were talking about. So if people start, working more with activists, then people will be able to have a better, stronger sense of community. So in a
Yeah,
nutshell,
man.
that's basically what FHL is all about.
Well, that's freaking awesome. And again, I had so much fun on your guys' show. And I will come back anytime they have me because
Oh
I
yeah.
really I love what y'all are doing. I love your all show. And
Hmm.
not only is it a great show, but it's also a blast to do too. So um
Hmm.
uh so last thing I wanted to bring up, man. So you have ESRD.
Hmm.
And so that is long-term kidney failure. Is that
Hmm.
what that? Okay, because I've seen you
Yeah.
post about it before. I've never really talked to you about it, but we mentioned it briefly off mic. Uh, so what all does that involve? Like what? I had a friend who he had to do dialysis. He has had issues his
Hmm.
entire life, and I think he might
Hmm.
actually have the same thing that you do.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I just remember he I remember the situation he was in. He got dialysis like twice a week. And
Hmm.
it was one of those things where when you get the dialysis, you're wiped out for the day. It just beats you
Yes.
up pretty bad. But then you're totally normal for like a
Hmm.
couple days. And then you just have to go get it again. And I think he was getting it twice a week. And it was really concerning. I mean, now he does not need it any longer, but because I believe he got a new kidney.
Hmm.
Um, but when he was going through it, I mean, and he was I don't want to go into too much detail out of respect for his privacy, but he basically had he was a working for himself. He had clients and he didn't want any clients to know what he was going through, and he just was hoping that they wouldn't notice that he only returned phone calls or emails certain weeks, and there were 2 weekdays where he never would because he
Hmm.
was going through dialysis, and he had to figure out a way to just get all of his work done on
Hmm.
those 3 days and then
Hmm.
try to have a weekend when he could. And it was intense. So what is your experience like? If whatever you will share.
Hmm. Yeah, so I was born with a disease called nephrotic syndrome. That is a juvenile kidney disease where it actually attacks the glomerulus, their filtrations that are inside your kidneys. And so, years ago when I was in my 20s, my kidneys officially failed, so I had to go on dialysis. Dialysis is basically a system where uh, what I go through is called hemodialysis. There's two different kinds, but hemodialysis basically means that your blood is taken out through a closed circuit loop. It goes through a tube, what's called a dialyzer. And that dialyzer pulls out impurities, and those impurities that typically build up in your blood is called urea. And so that urea that builds up can be toxic to your body. Now, typically in a healthy human being, the urea is actually pulled out from your kidneys and then transferred to your bladder where you can execute it. Unfortunately, because people like me, my kidneys do not work, it doesn't pull the urea or impurities. And also, the excess fluid that's in your vascular space is also not pulled out. So, the excess in fluid as well as the excess impurities builds up in the body, which can result in death. Okay. So, because you, as a healthy human being, your kidneys are constantly working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're literally dialyzing right now as you sit there. But me, I'm not. And so this is why I go personally 3 times a week to get that dialysis done. And it has to happen unless I can get a kidney transplant. If I don't get a kidney transplant, then I'm on dialysis basically for the rest of my life. So it's a life-sustaining treatment. So, like for instance, if I don't go for a few days, I can die.
Yeah.
And so, um, dialysis also not only takes out the impurities and takes out excess fluid, but it also restores the pH balance within your body as well. And so, um, I've been doing dialysis for, gosh, it's about to be May. I was 23 at the time, so I think I'm going to my 14th year. Um, but I need to qualify for a transplant, and I'm working on that right now. But yeah, and dialysis 3 times a week is very difficult because it wears you out.
Sure.
And it's not just a worn out like, oh, I just got to rest for a couple of hours and I'm good. Absolutely not. This is wear you out where once you get home, you sleep for hours and hours. Now, not everybody's the same. Some people can sleep for a couple of hours and they're good. Some people like myself, I'm out for the rest of the day.
Hmm.
And so it also makes, having a job or working also much more difficult because working full time, if I'm at dialysis 3 days a week, that only gives me 4 days, and dialysis is just like having a job because you're
Yeah.
exhausted as if you were working a job and you're gone for hours at a time, like you're at a job. And then by the time you get home, you're exhausted. Well, I did the same thing where I worked 40 hours a week plus I did dialysis,
Oh,
and that
jeez.
that nearly killed me.
That's
um,
I don't know. I can't even imagine. I mean, that's brutal.
yeah, yeah. And so the problem though is you know you can't necessarily survive on doing that. And of course, you can do things like get disability and things like that. But the problem with disability is that it is woefully inadequate. The amount that many people get is either at what the minimum wage is or less than that. And so you have people who are literally disabled who are earning a poverty income, not earning, but they're getting a poverty income from disability. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm also big on expanding Social Security, because you have a lot of people who are disabled right now who feel like they're invisible to society and they just need to suffer in silence and just stay over there and you don't matter. And we need to not only expand it, but also people who get taxed on Social Security, you're only taxed on Social Security up to, I think it's $130,000 of your income. So, for instance, somebody like Jeff Bezos' wealth, if we actually taxed him for Social Security, let's say up to $10 million instead, then how much better will we be able to supplement the incomes of people who are on Social Security, either disability or retirement? And before anyone goes, oh, that's just for disabled or retirement people, I just want to say you will eventually either need it for retirement or disability. One of those two are going to happen. So it behooves everyone to care about this issue. So I kind of transitioned to that because I also wanted to talk about that a little bit, about how important that is, because your country is only as good as, the weakest or the most disenfranchised among you. And so
Well,
some of the
and how it
weakest,
looks out for those people. Like
exactly.
how it looks out for people who are, disabled through no fault of their own and
Hmm.
like just basically not offering a quality of life when there are more
Hmm.
than enough resources to do so. It
Yes.
says a lot about a society and not in a good way in our
Hmm.
case, big time. So,
Absolutely.
well, where can
Yeah.
people go to learn more? Where can people go to follow you and the Fred Hampton and just learn more about everything you got going on?
Okay, so for Fred Hampton leftists, you can go on Twitter at Fred Hampton Left. You can also follow us on our YouTube channel at Fred Hampton Leftists. And we are also available on Instagram. We are also available on Twitch and TikTok as well. So we got all those platforms that are going up. I think we're about to launch Rockfin. I'm trying to remember. Oh, we also have a Facebook page as well for many people who are on Facebook as well. So, and you can follow me at Befaunt. That's JayBefaunt, and I'll be there on Twitter if you guys want to give me a follow there as well.
Thank you so much, James. It was awesome talking to you. Y'all heard it. Go follow. Check out the Fred Hampton list. Their show is awesome. I had the honor of doing it a little while ago, about a month ago, and I can't wait to do it again. And James, I can't wait to have you back on this show too. I hope you're willing to come back. Awesome talking to you. Thanks for getting your news on with me today, and stay strong, folks. We will be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. And in the meantime, you know the drill. Lucy, she is asleep on the couch, and she's doing a lot better, by the way. Thank you all for your tweets and your emails and stuff. Lucy is feeling better. She had a jumping injury, James. She missed a jump last week, and I'm a very doting cat guy, so I was very panicked, but she is doing better. So she says meow, and James says peace, and I say peace, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Bye.